This episode of Amateur Traveler is sponsored by Prismatext, which makes learning a language as easy as reading a book. Amateur Traveler, episode 857. Today, the Amateur Traveler talks about coffee, chocolate, and crocodiles, sloths, toucans, jaguars, and a walled city, as we go to Cartagena and Northern Colombia. This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler. Let's talk about Colombia. I'd like to welcome the show Inge from DestinationExplorer.world, who has come to talk to us about Colombia in South America. Inge, welcome to the show.
Very happy to be here, Chris. It's a pleasure to join the show.
And people have probably already figured out you are not from Colombia.
Exactly. I'm from a very small country in Europe, from Belgium. But I have a strong connection with Colombia, I think.
I was going to say, what is your connection with Colombia?
I started liking Colombia because my youngest daughter went there for 10 months to do an internship there. And she very much liked the country. She actually loved it. Then my oldest daughter went to visit her and she fell in love with Colombia as well. So she ended up living there for half a year too. That's why we thought now we have to visit it also, because it must be something very special. And then we had the chance to go there for a month, and I totally agree with my daughters. It's a fabulous country.
Excellent. Why should somebody go to Colombia?
I think, first of all, if you're a nature lover, you should go to Colombia because it's an amazing nature you will find there. It's still quite authentic. You have an amazing wildlife. If you like bird watching, it's the country to go. There's a diversity of landscapes that are really amazing. You have mountains, beaches, desert, jungle. And if you're a city lover, there are also big cities. So something for everyone, I think. The people are amazingly friendly. My daughter lived with the local people, which we visited when we went to Colombia. And it was such a warm and hospitality, and I never felt it before. So it really makes you feel very good when you go to Colombia. Then the colorful culture, I like dancing. They have a lot of music there. They're dancing from the morning till the evening. Then the coffee, if you're a coffee lover, you should also go there. And many are concerned about the safety of the country. That was the question everyone asked me. Oh, your daughter is going to stay in Colombia. Is it safe? But I can tell you it is, as long as you go to the right places there. There are some places you better not go into. But we never felt uncomfortable. We always felt safe everywhere we went. So that's quite something good, because in the past, Colombia wasn't safe as it is now.
In the past, we would not be talking about it, yes.
Exactly.
Excellent.
And then I have addition, I'm not sure if I can talk that much, but I also think it's quite still a value for money, because it's not so expensive, like example of Costa Rica, which is now really a quite expensive country to go to. It's the middle of America, it's not really south, but Colombia is way more affordable than that, for example.
Excellent. And what kind of itinerary are you going to recommend for us?
I was thinking about that because Colombia is quite a big country. You really need some time to discover it. But if you have a small amount of time, I still would recommend it. And I would say if you come from the United States, Cartagena is the closest airport. There are a lot of direct flights to Cartagena, and that's a beautiful colonial city. It's on the Caribbean coast, and I would definitely recommend starting there. Then after a few days, I would head to Santa Marta to visit Minca, which is in the mountains, mountain village. Very beautiful views there, a lot of diversity in nature. Stay there also for at least 2 nights. And from there, you can easily visit the most beautiful national park of Colombia. It's Tayrona, with its stunning beaches and the jungle where you can hike through. And then after 2 nights there, I would head back to Cartagena, maybe check a few things you didn't do the first days, and then head back to the United States. So that would be the itinerary for a week I would recommend you to do.
Excellent. So you started us in Cartagena. What are we going to do there?
Cartagena is a very beautiful city with World Heritage from UNESCO, the old city then. You need to visit. It's lovely streets. You have all small streets there. Great restaurants, which I can recommend a few if you like.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I have three I would really recommend, and that's one Trattoria di Silvio. It's an Italian food. I know it's not Colombian food, but it's a really good Italian. It has an amazing interior, but you need to make a reservation because there's a long waiting queue outside. Then more Colombian food is Buena Vida Marisqueria y Rooftop. And yes, you hear it. It has a rooftop terrace, and it's really very nice.
So it's the Good Life rooftop terrace.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
You sit on the rooftop. You have a delicious ceviche, which is typically also for Colombia. You can have a great seafood there, and the terrace. The views are very beautiful, of course, but don't go for lunch because it's way too hot. Cartagena is a very hot city. It's better to go around sunset to have dinner.
You say it's a very hot city. We didn't say geographically where you said it was the closest to the U.S., but it's the closest because it's on the coast in a tropical area. That's one of the reasons you're saying. What time of year would you recommend going if we're going to this coastal part?
The best time is in fact December, but unfortunately it's also the time that the Colombian people are having holidays, and it can get crowded because they travel around in their own country as well. They're very proud on their own country, the Colombian people. Right. And therefore the second best period is July, and that was the period that we visited too. And it was quite nice, but it's still hot in Cartagena. I think it's always hot there. Hard to avoid.
Okay, it is a tropical area.
It is. It's a Caribbean coast.
The other question I had in terms of clarifying something, you said that the restaurant that you recommended was a marisqueria, which is, I think, means seafood. It's a seafood restaurant.
Exactly, yes. But you can have meat if you don't like fish.
Okay.
But it's most ceviches and seafood. That's their specialty. I have a third one.
Okay.
And that's not Colombian, but it's Argentinian, not so far from Colombia. And it's a steakhouse. And I think American people love to eat steak. And I think they all know that Argentinian steak is one of the best in the world. So I would definitely recommend you the Argentinian steakhouse, Quebracho Parrilla. And it's near to the old city walls, good location, and the steak is absolutely something you need to try.
Okay, excellent. Where to next? What are we doing in Cartagena?
Next to the restaurants and the old city, I would also recommend Getsemani region or district in the city. It was the most dangerous district of Cartagena in old times, but it had changed a lot, and it's now a little bit of a bohemian atmosphere there, with a lot of street art, a lot of art shops too. The nightlife is very nice there. You have a lot of street musicians coming out. You need to be at Plaza de la Trinidad around sunset, and then you will have a very nice evening because you will meet the street musicians. There's our terraces where you can sit on. A lot of local people come there too, and then the music will make you feel good, and you can start to party like a local person, in fact. So that's also a part of Cartagena I would definitely recommend visiting. And
would you take a tour there, or how do you tackle that neighborhood?
It's not so big. You can take a tour there, but you can easily walk it by yourself. It's very walkable. It's still hot, so in the daytime it's not so nice to walk around a long time. You will need to book a hotel with a pool because you will need it during daytime. But in the evening it's very nice to visit there. And also between the two, between Getsemani and the old city center, you have a central park in Cartagena, which you need to visit because that was the most surprising experience we had there. We saw the sloths climbing into the trees there. So I read that a lot of people say, they say there are sloths in the park, but we never saw them. I must confess my daughter didn't see them before, and she was 3 times there before me. So I thought, I'm going to take a look, but probably there will be nothing. But then you need to go off the paths of the park and watch under the trees. Of course, the sloths are in the trees, so we really saw them, and we made some very nice videos of it. And there was even a sloth family with a little baby. So it's definitely worth going into the park, get off the path, walk up the trees and watch the trees there. And as I said, that the local people were so friendly. If you don't see them, just ask someone. They're willing to help, and they will guide you to the tree where you can find the sloths.
Okay. And you mentioned the old city, and we said you should go there. We wouldn't say anything about it. So this is the part that's still inside the old city walls?
The old city is where I said where the small streets with the balconies full of flowers.
Yep.
That's in the center of the old city, and the old city is also surrounded by an old city wall. And it's very nice to go there at sunset time to watch the sunset. There's also one cafe I would recommend to enjoy the sunset in the old city of Cartagena. It's Café del Mar, and it's on the city wall. You just can walk up there. It's free. But of course, if you want to drink something in the cafe, you need to pay. But go there early because it can be very crowded as well, because everyone seems to know the place and some people are coming there to watch the sunset. But that's a beautiful thing to do. Then you have a lot of shops in the old city with unique Colombian things to buy, to have a souvenir to take home.
Okay.
The handbags that are made by the indigenous people. And they're very colorful. All Colombia is colorful. So that's a nice thing to take with you. But you need to check if you have the original one, because there's a lot of fake ones as well.
And are these woven bags then?
Yes, they're woven. And they're woven with different colors. You can choose whatever color you prefer. So it's really nice. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're really handmade. So they're definitely worth the price.
Excellent. Anything else, any other sites that you would recommend we see in the old city?
Yes, I would recommend you to go to the old castle or the fortress of San Felipe de Barajas. It's an easy walk up. It's, of course, near the city walls, and it's founded in the 16th century, so it's very old. And despite of the fire that has been in Cartagena, it's still preserved. Before, you could take a walking audio tour guide, but they canceled that now, so you need to take a guide if you want to know more about the history of the fortress. But that's something I would definitely recommend in Cartagena Old City Center as well.
Okay. And you say despite the fire, so I'm getting the impression that so many cities that were built in the 1500s, 1600s, there are times that large portions of the city burnt down because of fire, is what you're telling me.
Yes, that's true. That's true, because before, when the city was founded, it was founded by the Spanish in the 16th century, and before the fire, it were all wooden houses, but of course they didn't survive. And then they started building the stone ones, which the fortress is one of, and you can still visit it, also the old city walls. It was once one of the best protected ports in South America. In the 18th century, it was really a very important port, and they protected it very well, and they kept it in those Spanish hands until the independence, though. So I think it really was good to defend it.
It fell to at least one pirate or one privateer, I see, in its history, and was also involved in the very strangely named War of Jenkins' Ear. But that's a whole nother podcast.
Okay, but it is the region of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Cartagena was also a part of that, so that's true.
Exactly. Excellent. Anything else in the old city?
I would recommend going for shopping there too, because besides of the handbags, you have a lot of international shops, but also some specific Italian ones. We found a very nice Italian shop. It was not for women, it was for men, so my husband was happy. And we had a great lunch at the shop as well. There was a patio, which was very welcoming because of the heat. There was like open air, but with a lot of plants, so it was nice to sit down there. And you can, if you want, go by coach. There are coaches in the city by horses, run by horses. But I wouldn't recommend that, because I really had pity with the horses because of the heat. And they are driving around with so many people. But if you like it, of course, you can do it. And sometimes, but I saw that more in Getsemani, so I go to the other district again. You have the women in the specific colorful local clothes, but you need to pay them if you want to take a picture. That's tourism.
Okay, sure. I imagine if you were there for a festival, you might see them dressed in their colorful things, not just to raise money for tourism, but...
Exactly, then there would be more authentic people wearing the clothes because of the festival, but now it's only a few women that wear the traditional clothing, especially for the tourists to make pictures. But they're still nice. It's nice to see them. I managed to take some picture without them noticing, so that was not so nice of me. But I have the picture. Exactly.
Excellent. Anything else we want to do in Cartagena?
Yes, the two regions I mentioned, Getsemani and the Old City, and then in between the central part, because next to slots there were also a lot of monkeys to observe. It was really nice to see them too. But then you also have the district of Boca Grande. And Boca Grande is the modern part of Cartagena. I'm not so into the modern parts myself, because in Colombia you want to be at the old city, the historical city, the more authentic places. But if you like modern places, it's also nice to see from the city wall with the sunset. You have an excellent view on the skyline of Boca Grande.
And so when you say modern, I'm picturing a skyline with tall buildings.
Yes, exactly. A lot of skyscrapers there, a lot of big resorts, like the Hilton Hotel is there.
Okay.
Good thing is that you have a beach, so you can sit in front of your waterfront hotel where you can see the sea and watch a sunset directly at the sea. But it's not so picturesque as the other two districts. But if you like resorts, if you like staying at a big resort where everything is included, then you can do it there. It's in Boca Grande.
Got it. This episode of Amateur Traveler is sponsored by Prismatext. You want to learn a foreign language because you know it will make your travel better, but it's too hard. Prismatext gives you a different way to effortlessly learn a language. You read a story, you learn a language. When you go to prismatext.com, you can download a book and then choose how many of the words in the book are translated into the language you're trying to learn. So as you're reading, say, Agatha Christie, you get more and more Spanish words included in until you find yourself learning Spanish without even thinking about it. They have more than 400 different vocabulary words per book, and Prismatext has found that it's 50% more effective than traditional language acquisition methods. You can choose from one of 16 different languages. Want to learn French while reading biographies, or maybe German with your favorite sci-fi book? It's up to you. Instead of setting aside time to study a language, instead you can practice just by doing what you want to do, reading your favorite book. To learn more, visit prismatext.com and select from hundreds of titles to start learning a language from your favorite stories. To save 20% off your first order, you can use the code AMATEUR, AMATEUR. And thanks to Prismatext for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. Where to next?
After the 2 days of visiting Cartagena, I would recommend to head to Santa Marta, because Santa Marta is the in-between point to get to the Minca place, where I would recommend you definitely to go to. And it takes about 4 to 5 hours drive to go to Santa Marta. It depends a bit on which transport you will be using. If you take the bus at the central bus terminal, there are buses going to Santa Marta. It takes more time than if you hire a van. It's smaller, but it at least will take you 4 hours, because it's not a highway like you're used to in America. It's a smaller road and it goes quite slow. I wouldn't recommend you, though, to take a hired car, because the traffic in Colombia is really not safe. We saw a few terrible accidents on the road, so I wouldn't recommend hiring a car and driving myself. I think it's better if you like to have more comfortable journey to Santa Marta and Minca to take the shared van or a private driver.
And from when we talked before we started press the record button here, my impression is, although I asked you to give me a 7-day itinerary, you would be more comfortable if this were sort of 9 days with travel days here for some of these longer drives.
Exactly. Yes, the drives are quite long. If you have to head to Minca and head back, it's a complete day that you will lose just by driving around. Because when you want to head to Minca, you just arrive after 4 or 5 hours in Santa Marta. With a private driver, it probably takes a little less than 4 hours. But then you still have to go to Minca, which takes another 40 minutes, even with a taxi. About taxis, I would recommend to be very careful, because they don't run meters like they do, I think, in the United States. So you have to discuss the price before getting in, because they can really give you a price that you don't want to pay. And after the drive, it's hard to discuss about it. So for taxis, I would highly recommend to discuss the price before.
Sure.
And a better way to use small transport is Uber. Uber is used a lot in Colombia, and it's in fact safer than the taxi. So I would recommend you taking that, because after the bus you still need to go to the center of Minca, and therefore you can use the Uber. It's not so far, it's about 40 minutes drive. But then I would really recommend you a hotel that we were staying at in the mountains. You can stay in Minca Center as well, so you don't have to drive anymore. But to have a real great experience, I would recommend the mountains. And then you need to drive up by jeep, because it's like a very hard and sharp road with a lot of sharp turns to go up to that retreat. But I really would recommend you that. I don't know if I can say the name of it on here, or is it too much publicity?
Oh, no, please go ahead.
Okay, so I would recommend you to stay in Casas Viejas by Masaya. It's a 20 minutes drive up from Minca Center to the place, but it's amazing. You can stay there in a private room, you have your own bathroom. You have an infinity pool, and when you're in the pool, it looks like you're in the middle of the jungle. The parrots are flying over you. You have a lot of tropical birds flying there. I would really recommend staying there. Minca is also known for its yoga retreats. And I did some yoga there in the morning. It's early in the morning that they do it, but then you see the sunrise, and you get relaxed just by getting up to the yoga place, and you're already relaxed because of the beautiful views. So I would highly recommend doing that.
Okay. And just to put some context on this for people, so you said we're going via Santa Marta. So Santa Marta is further along the coast, north and east of Cartagena. And then we're heading to Minca, which now we're heading into the mountains, heading towards the Pico Cristobal Colon. And we're heading here for the yoga retreats, for the mountains, for the jungle. Is there a particular reason why, of all the villages, you picked Minca?
Minca is quite a great place to start the hikings or to see the waterfalls, because you have a lot of beautiful waterfalls nearby, like the Pozo Azul, where you can hike to. You can also go to a sunset point where you have a beautiful view at sunset. You can even see Santa Marta on a clear day. Then you can go on a tour for bird watching. You can join it at daytime, but you can also do a night tour. And they all start in Minca, so that's why I would recommend to go to Minca. I was telling you before to take a jeep up to the place where we stayed, and that I would really recommend. But you can also go, if you are very adventurous, by a motorcycle. People sit on the back of a local, but for me that's a little bit too adventurous. It was quite an adventure to go up the road with the jeep. It was more than enough for me. But motorcycles are used a lot there too, to go to the mountain roads. You can do tours with the motorcycle, then get off, watch the waterfalls, or go to the coffee farms, because also in this region you find a lot of coffee farms or cacao farms. Also, I would recommend you to do that. There are some places I would not recommend, the very crowded ones. One of them is the Victoria coffee farm. If you go to Casas Viejas, you will drive through it, in fact, with the jeep, because it's on the road up the mountain. And it looks nice, but in fact it's quite crowded, and you don't have the very great experience like you can have in another coffee farm that I would recommend. The Carpe Diem coffee farm I would recommend, because that's a better one. Or even the El Paraíso de Tuqui. That's also a nice one. There you have the mixture of coffee and cacao, and it's also a bed and breakfast. So if you like it, you can also stay there. Because most of the places you can stay near Minca are the mountain retreats, the city center of Minca, or the coffee farms, where you can stay as well, and then you're in the middle of the coffee. And we did that in Salento, but we're not talking about Salento now. But you have coffee all day for free when you stay at a coffee farm. So that's also something good, especially when you need a lot of coffee to start the day with.
Okay. And you mentioned bird watching. Is there a particular memorable bird that you saw in this area?
Yeah, we saw so many beautiful birds. We saw a lot of colibris. hard to get a good picture of them because they're so quick. But hummingbirds, sorry. We saw a lot of hummingbirds.
Okay.
It's in English. Sorry, you can...
That's all right. That's what I thought you were probably talking about.
Yes, it's the hummingbirds that I was talking about.
Okay.
And then some parrots, I saw them in all colors. They make a lot of noise, I can tell you that. When the sunset is coming in, they start flying around the place and they make a lot of noise. I saw blue ones, I saw green ones, beautiful colored ones. And I would definitely try to do the bird watching. I took my binoculars, so I was very happy that I had them there because you can watch the birds very close by, in fact. Also toucans, you can watch toucans.
Oh, fun. Okay.
And that makes me think about the beer, because you have some local beer, and I think people from the United States like to drink beer as well. So you have a local cerveceria, it's called Nevada, and it's in fact a local beer of Minca, and the beers are called Happy Toucan, for example, because you see the toucans flying over. Okay. But you have other ones, and they're really good beers to have. You have also the Happy Nebby is a kind of cat, jaguar type. You have some other ones, but the Happy, it's colibri. I don't know why. Maybe it's Spanish colibri.
Is the Latin name for hummingbirds. It is the genus. So thank you for teaching me something today. I did not know that.
Okay. So you have that beer too. It's really nice to have it. You can drink it in the cerveceria, but it's much nicer to drinking up the mountains on a beautiful terrace with the view on the birds. You are drinking, in fact, the toucans and the hummingbirds. So that's also something I would recommend you to do.
Okay. Excellent. Cool. What else are we going to do in Minca here? Find a hammock and lie in it for a while. It sounds fun.
If you are in the cacao farm, you can even have a chocolate massage there, which is also nice to relax.
Okay, hang on a second.
As I was telling you.
Those are two words that I know, but the combination of them seems a little odd to me. Describe what this is like.
It's a massage where you get, like you have a hot stone massage, probably that.
Sure.
Or another massage where they use some herbs or something that are good for your muscles. This time, because you are at a cacao farm, they will use chocolates. And it's the chocolate they are harvesting there. But it's not the chocolate you eat, unfortunately. It's not that you will be trying to eat yourself when you are doing the massage, because the chocolate is pure, and I can tell you that pure chocolate without additives is very bitter. Yes, it is. Right. So it's very good for your skin, but don't try to eat it. But
so
it's
they're massaging me with cocoa beans?
No, with no, not the powder. They will make it like chocolate, but melted chocolate.
Oh,
so it's fluid, and it's hot. Not hot, too hot, but a little bit warm.
So it's like a mud massage, but with chocolate.
With chocolate, yes. And I think it sounds better than mud. And of course, you need to take a shower afterwards to get rid of the chocolate, unfortunately. But the massage is really good. And if you want to visit the farm and taste some chocolate, you can do that too. And it's about 1.5 hours that a tour takes there.
Okay. Excellent. What's next?
Next to Minca, I would say to stay there the first night when you arrive because of the long travel that you had. And then stay there one extra night because you need to do a day with all the things you can visit there, like we told. The waterfalls, the coffee farm, cacao, bird watching, and all the things you want to do. And then leave the third day to Tayrona National Park. Fortunately for you, that's not such a long drive. You have to go down with the jeep or the motorcycle again. First, back to Minca. And from Minca, you can take a Uber or a taxi, or you can ask at the reception of the hotel in Minca to arrange it for you. And then you can drive with the taxi or Uber to Tayrona National Park. You can go directly to the national park, but I wouldn't recommend it because I would recommend you to go first thing in the morning, and it should be the next day, because it opens at 8 and it's a good idea to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning when the park opens.
Okay.
So the first day I would recommend you to just take the taxi or the Uber to this environment of Tayrona. I have a very nice place to stay there as well. It's very close to the main entrance, and it's called Senda Koguia or Senda Watapi. I would recommend the first one because it's very close to the river and you can have a swim in the river, but be sure that there are no crocodiles because in that region you can encounter a caiman. It's in fact a caiman, so be careful there. But it's really nice to stay there because it's comfortable. It's like a resort. You have the swimming pool. You're in the hot region again because you came down the mountain from Minca. And
we're back on the coast.
So
yep. Mm-hmm.
You're still you're getting near the coast with very hot and humid temperatures. Though so after the experiences in Minca, I would recommend you to take the afternoon off and just relax at the hotel pool.
Okay. I'm going to recommend another podcast that is a travel podcast for you to listen to, and that's the Travel Squad podcast. Some things the same and some things different compared to Amateur Traveler. One thing that's different is there are 3 co-hosts who have been friends for a long time, and so there's a lot more banter on the Travel Squad podcast that I think you may enjoy. Their episodes will inspire you to take your next trip, so that is similar. They have 190 episodes, so not quite as many as Amateur Traveler, but they've been doing this for a while. They share their personal experiences on location-specific destinations, both domestic and international, national parks, and more. One thing that's different is they also have tip episodes on how to travel cheaper and better and have downloadable trip itineraries so you can take the exact trips they have taken without the hassle of planning your own trip, which is cool. Whether you're a seasoned globetrotter or a first-time traveler, the Travel Squad podcast will ignite your wanderlust. So check them out on all major podcast platforms to inspire your next epic adventure.
And then make sure to go next day, first thing in the morning, to the entrance of the Tayrona National Park. It's walkable from the hotel. It's less than 10 minutes walk. Between the hotel and the entrance, you will find some shops. And I would recommend you to buy some water there, maybe even some cookies or something to eat, because in the park there will be some places available where you can eat something, but I'm not so sure about the quality. So that's why I would recommend to take something from outside the park with you, so you won't be hungry, because the park, you will spend the day there. So you will need to drink a lot because of the heat and to have something to eat also. We had a beer inside the park, so we didn't get sick, so that's doable. But to have some extra water, because there are some distances before you see the bar, and then it's necessary to have your own water. Sure. If you're really not so into walking, you can also do horse riding. They hire horses there, and you can hire one, and then you're a bit more comfortable. Don't have to walk all the way. It's maybe good to walk up to Cabo San Juan, which is the most ultimate point that I would recommend to walk to, and then go back. It's in fact the same way, because you can only go back to Santa Marta with a boat. Otherwise, you need to walk back. And as you're staying near the Tayrona Park entrance, you will need to come back. But you could consider coming back on a horse to have a different experience. Got it. Very important.
So some people actually day trip from Santa Marta, is what you're saying?
Yes, you can. Some people are just staying in Santa Marta, go by boat to Tayrona. It's another way to enter the park, and go back by boat as well. But I think if you skip Minca, you haven't seen much, so I wouldn't recommend that. I really would recommend you to go to Minca as well. And then other things to know about Tayrona, you need to take your original passport, so don't only take it on your iPhone or your mobile phone, because it's not enough. They need to see your original passport. The entrance fee is not very high. It's about $16 to enter the park for a day. They will tell you that you can have accommodation inside the park as well, but as it's a national park, there are no very comfortable hotels or something like that inside. It's more camping, and there are not much amenities, so if you like a bit of comfort, I would not recommend to stay there, but if you're comfortable staying at a camp and in a tent that you can hire there, you can. But also, if you want to do that, do it at the entrance and book it there at 8 o'clock in the morning. But know that the accommodation are very basic, so you can't expect much luxury. You can even spend the night in a hammock if you like. Got it.
They're not throwing in a free chocolate massage or something like this.
No, that's not to be found there. But that's important to know. Bring much water, have your passport with you, have some content cash money, because they don't accept credit cards or cards, any cards. You need to pay cash. Also in the park, when you want to drink something, you need cash. So that's also important to know. And then bring your bathing suit because it's hot, but there are beaches that you can swim. There's even a place where it's nice for snorkeling. So if you want, you can even bring your snorkeling gear.
Without crocodiles.
Yes, the places where there are crocodiles, you can't go into the water.
That's
it's
quite
mentioned.
all right.
Yes, it mentions don't enter. You see the crocodile on a board, so you know why. Yep. And the sea can also be very rough there because it's quite a rough. Some beaches are really rough waves, and it's better not to go in there. I know some locals are doing it, but I wouldn't recommend it for us.
Well, and what I'm seeing from the description, from the pictures I'm seeing, and from the map is, so this park is a long park along the coast with lots of different coves and lots of different peninsulas in between them. Maybe, 8 major different coves and 8 major different peninsulas and such. In this jungle, tropical coastline with palm trees and things like that, and big rocks that remind me of the baths in Virgin Gorda in British Virgin Islands, if you've seen that, the big round granite stones at the points and things like that. Is that a good description? Am I getting it here?
Yes, it made me think about the Seychelles, but I don't know if you were there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, there you also have the white big rocks on the beach. It's, of course, smaller, probably, but yes, it's typically for the coast, the Caribbean coast in Tirona, that you have the big rock formations. You even walk through them because the hike, that's something I wanted to say before. I have on my blog a little map, too, about the park, and there you see that from the entrance to the start of the hike, there's still like a main road, and I would recommend you to take the bus. You can take a bus from the entrance to the starting of the hiking point, because with the bus it only takes 10 minutes and by foot it takes 1 hour, and it's already very hot, not comfortable, and there's nothing to see. It's really a boring road. So take the bus. It doesn't cost anything. It's $3 to take the bus up and back, because if you took it to go up, you can take it back too, and I would highly recommend that. And then the hike really starts into the jungle, like you said, with the palm trees. And the hike also goes in between the rock formations, so it's really nice. You have amazing views over the coast, where you have a bit of rock on your screen as well, so it's really nice views. And inside the rocks there are also people selling drinks, but I would be careful with buying water because you never know from where it comes.
Right.
But Coca-Cola or something, it's in cans,
sealed.
so there you're safe. You're safe buying that.
And then you're doing a loop hike to some of the playas, some of the beaches, or where are you hiking to?
You pass a lot of beaches. The first hike, that's why I told you to bring a lot of water, is for 75 minutes walk. So that's more than an hour, where you can arrive at the first beach. And the first beach that you can go on is Playa Arrecifes. There's no shade, so it's quite hot. You need your sunscreen, your sun blocker may be better. You go to the toilet there. There are toilets, so that's a nice thing to know. And you can swim there. And also close to that playa or that beach, you can go for snorkeling. It's a great area for snorkeling as well. But before, and that's also something people need to know, you need to pass through a small river. You have to wear comfortable shoes, but if you have shoes like Tevas, I don't know if you know it in the United States, it's like sandals where you can walk into water with. It's good to take those because you just can walk through the water. I had my sneakers on with the socks and everything, so I need to take everything off. Then I had wet feet. But luckily, I also had my swimming suit and the towel, so I could dry them easily. So you need some gear to take with you in the backpack, because it's really an adventurous walk.
Okay, excellent.
And then the next beach is Playa Arenilla. You have some nice views there, but you can't swim in Arenilla. It's a dangerous beach. I didn't see any crocodiles there, but it's maybe because of the high waves. I think it's quite rough sea there. Then another 10 minutes, that's walkable, and then you're in La Piscina. That sounds good. It sounds like a swimming pool.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Exactly. So there you can swim, of course. It's safe to swim there.
Got it.
And then everyone, if you're still hiking, because now you're hiking about 1.5 hours, I think it's a little bit more, almost 2 hours hiking that you're doing.
Yep.
So then the last 20 minutes, and I say it's really hot during the hike, but you get distracted because during the hike through the jungle, you will see some monkeys playing in the palm trees. So that's nice. There are a lot of coconuts hanging in the palm trees too, and I was always wondering, I hope they don't fall on my head, because there were a lot of coconuts on the floor, on the ground. But then Cabo San Juan is really nice to end your walk, because it's a beautiful beach. There are some crocodiles there. I luckily didn't see them. I went into the sea. There were a lot of people in the sea. Nobody got eaten, so that was a good thing.
That's always makes for a better day at the beach.
Yeah. And then close to the beach, you have the camping area. So you will see the tents. It's nothing paradise thing. It's all tents next to each other. And it's not so nice camping there, I think.
Okay.
Because the area is, you're really on a campsite with all the tents close together. I think there's 1 meter between them. So that's not for me. I don't mind hiking back and go to my resort, have a swim and a nice room.
Got it. Excellent. Anything else we want to say about the national park?
Yes, because it's also important to know that it's closed 3 periods during the year.
Okay.
Because you will encounter some indigenous people still living there. It's in fact their area. And they have some religious and cultural things they need to do during the year, and therefore they respect them and they close the park when they have the religious times that they have to do some rituals.
Okay.
They close the park so they can do it in peace. We met the indigenous people. You can't miss them. They're walking through the park on bare feet. You will see them. They have still the original traditional clothes that they are wearing.
Okay.
And in fact, you can do a tour if you want, not when the park is closed, but otherwise you can make a tour to learn more about their rituals and their culture. But when it's ritual time, the park is closed. And for 2023, it was closed in February. So probably always around February. And I remember that because my daughters wanted to go. They were there in February and the park was closed, so they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Then in June, it's also closed for 2 weeks. And then still this year, it will be closed the end half October till the 2nd of November. It's also closed.
Right. Interesting.
But for the rest of the time, it's open. So that's something to consider and to check out, because I really would recommend to visit this park because it's so beautiful. You have the difference between the jungle and the coast, the beautiful coast. But when it's closed, you can't get in and people don't have time to wait 2 weeks to wait till it gets open again. That's important to know as well.
Excellent.
Then in the park, for the wildlife, I talked about the monkeys. We saw a lot of monkeys, but you also have the jaguars there. The park is closed at 5. It's open at 8 and until 5. But of course, if you're staying in a tent there, you stay later. And then you have the most chance of seeing more than the monkeys and the things like the birds, you can have much chance to see things like that. Mm-hmm. But if you want to see the snakes, like the boa constrictor who is living there too, the jaguar, the ocelot, an anteater even, or a sloth, you have better chance seeing them when you stay for the night. We heard the jaguars. In fact, it was a very special sound, but luckily we didn't see them. It's unfortunate we didn't see them maybe, but I wouldn't be very happy to see them just in front of me because they're really still quite dangerous, I think. But they are living there. We heard them.
Interesting. Okay. Excellent. Are we ready to hop back on the road and head back to Cartagena then for the rest of your loop?
Yes, of course. I would stay. So after the hike in the park, that will take you for a day trip because you have to get back. I would recommend you to go to your resort and take a swim because it will be necessary to take a very nice shower. And then stay at a hotel because both hotels I mentioned, the Senda Kogui, both as the Senda Watapi, they have really nice restaurants. You can sit on the terrace, have a great view. We had a beautiful sunset there. I would recommend you to stay one more night and then head back again to Santa Marta, and from Santa Marta to Cartagena. It's quite a drive, so by the late afternoon you can be in Cartagena again to do the things you didn't do before. For example, maybe on the last day do some shopping, and next day you can head back to the United States. Now, if you did something in Cartagena or you missed something and you still want to do something, another thing that I can recommend is going to the Rosario Islands. Not always a very nice experience, but better than Playa Blanca. I would definitely not recommend people to go to Playa Blanca because it's awful. The beach is nice, it's white beach, the sea is beautiful, it's turquoise, but it's crowded. We went to Playa Tranquile, and it should be a quiet beach, but tranquil. It was terrible. Yes, it was very bad. No, don't do it, don't trap in that, because they will try to sell it in the streets. But it's not a good experience. You have motorboats all over the places where you should be swimming. You have the smell of gasoline everywhere, and I really would not recommend you to do it. We had some friends there who went to Rosario Islands. It's a bit better, but still, I wouldn't recommend the Rosario Islands either, because the corals are quite in a bad state also. You see some beautiful fish while snorkeling, but the accommodation isn't, you should think it should be. It's not a paradise either. So if you really want to have a good tropical experience at the beach in Colombia, I would recommend you to go to the island of San Andres. And maybe, as we talked before, we need some more days than 1 week to go to Colombia. San Andres would be a good stop to add some extra days. I don't know if you know where it's situated, but it's in fact in front of the coast of Nicaragua, so you're already on the way to the United States. It's a bit more to the north.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize it was that far away. Okay.
Yeah, and you can fly from Cartagena to San Andres Island, and there you have the real tropical experience. It's paradise there.
Okay. Good to know. Anything else we want to say about Colombia before we get to some of our wrap-up questions?
We haven't spoken about the food. I recommended you some restaurants, but what you really should try if you're into local food, if you want to try local food, I would recommend you to try the bandeja paisa, which is the most typical food you can find in Colombia. It's made of beans, rice, meat, an egg, and of course the famous Colombian avocado, which is quite different to the Mexican one. It's bigger, and the taste of the avocado is amazing, especially with a little bit of salt in it. You can eat it without anything. We tried it out with a little bit of salt, and it was very delicious. Another typical thing to eat in Colombia is patacones. It's a double fried green baked banana. It's also delicious. Arepas with cheese. I like cheese, so you should try. If you like cheese, try the arepas con queso. They're really nice too.
And
empanadas, of
these
course.
Are fried green plantains.
Patacones, yes. It's the bananas, the green bananas.
Yep.
And then, as it's a banana, the fruit, you absolutely need to eat the fruit, because the fruit is the best variety of fruits, and the biggest variety, in fact, of fruits are found in Colombia. You have so many different types of fruit. The pineapple, for example, it was totally different taste than we have here in Europe. It's very sweet. You can eat everything of it. Here we have to take the middle out. I'm not sure in the region of North America the pineapples are better, but here you need to take the middle out because
we
it's hard.
don't grow a lot here, but...
Okay, but there you can eat everything because it's really smoothly.
Interesting.
The lulo is a typical fruit from Colombia. It looks a bit like an orange, but it's a really fresh and sour taste, and it's great to have juice with that, especially when you're in the hot area of Cartagena or Tayrona. You can use a lulo smoothie. Maracuya is also very tasty. It's a yellow passion fruit that you can find there. And then the guanabana, it's also typical for Colombia. It's a big green sack hanging on a tree. And it's got a little milky thing inside, and they make smoothies of it combined with milk. And then cold, very cold, of course. And that's a really nice experience too. So don't forget to taste food in Colombia.
Excellent. As we start to wrap this up, you are standing in the prettiest spot in Colombia. Where are you standing and what are you looking at?
I have to tell you about the places we talked about, I think.
Yep.
So I must say it was in Minca. It was the view over the jungle, the birds everywhere. That was really an amazing place to stay. And to see the sun setting down, the jungle, the plants surrounding the place, the hummingbirds close by. That was for me the most amazing spot.
Excellent. One thing that makes you laugh and say only in Colombia.
Oh, there I have to think about. You laugh a lot in Colombia. They're really sweet, but maybe they want to invite you. Local people really want to invite you and see their house and try their dishes. You have a lot of street food in Cartagena, and they always try to give you something and to let you taste it. So I think the people are really amazing too. They're also trying to make you dance, so that's maybe a bit laughable because I don't do the Latin American dances as well as they do.
That's funny.
But they will try to make you dance, yes.
And if you had to summarize Colombia in just 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
I will say colorful, spectacular, and adventurous.
Excellent, excellent. Our guest has been Inge from DestinationExplorer.world. And Inge, if we wanted to look at your best post on Colombia, where are we going to send people?
Oh, I have a lot of posts about Colombia. It's a hard one to choose because it's such a big country. I'm looking at them now.
We're going to have to link to the National Park post for sure that you mentioned that talks about that. But so we're going to have you pick one other than that one.
Oh, it's a hard choice. Let's say Minca.
Okay, excellent. We'll make sure that we have a link in the show notes to Inge's post on Minca. Thanks. Inge, thanks so much for coming on Amateur Traveler and sharing with us your obvious love for Colombia.
It was my pleasure. It was really nice talking about one of my favorite countries in the world.
A special thanks to the patrons of this show who help support Amateur Traveler financially with their gifts from as small as $5 a month. And thanks to Pat McKenzie, the latest patron of the show. If you're interested in learning how to support Amateur Traveler, go to patreon.com/amateurtraveler to learn more. I've got a trip coming up to Belize and Guatemala with G Adventures, and I bring it up because there's actually a few slots on there. This is a last-minute trip. It's July 29th of this year, 2023, and so it's a very last-minute thing, but if you're interested, I think it's 25% off, and there are details in both the Amateur Traveler Trips group, amateurtraveler.com/trips, as well as the Amateur Traveler Facebook page, or just send me an email to host@amateurtraveler.com. With that, we're going to end this episode of the podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to host@amateurtraveler.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com, and thanks so much for listening.
Got to see one more